Daniel Carter, wearing a dark gray jacket with the sleeves folded up, sits by himself at a river restaurant on a quiet Saturday afternoon. A woman walks in looking very sad and tired. She checks the food list like it is a hard math test, hides her empty money holder under the table, then gets up and leaves without buying anything at all. Daniel sees something he knows well in the way she leaves, the way she tries to stand tall even though she is very hungry. He pushes his chair back. He has already made up his mind. One kind action will slowly change every life it touches. This story moves at a slow pace. If you read it to the end, think of one word that describes how you feel. The restaurant door closed behind Daniel. The little bell above it made a soft, light sound. He caught up with her at the corner where the sidewalk ended and the sunlight hit the water. "Excuse me," he said. "Could you wait for a moment?" She turned around. Her eyes were sharp, ready. Not the look of someone who was proud, the look of someone who had been hurt by people who said they wanted to help. "I saw you did not get a chance to eat," Daniel said, speaking in a quiet tone. "I ordered too much food. There is an empty chair at my table if you want to join me." She shook her head before he could finish. "No, thank you. We are fine. I am not trying to be a bother. I already told you we are okay." Her voice sounded hard. "I do not want handouts." He did not push her. He nodded one time. "I understand. I am sorry if I made you feel bad." She did not say anything. She turned away, stood straight, and walked down the street toward the bus stop. The light hit her at the street crossing, and then she was gone behind a big truck. Daniel stayed there longer than he planned. The day felt too bright. He went back inside, sat at his table with his half-eaten food, and did not take another bite. He had money. He could have bought 10 more meals without a second thought. He could have run after her and handed her cash. He had done things like that when he first started working, and he learned that it often went wrong, or someone who had been treated badly by life. Help given in the wrong way can feel like a trap. Sometimes the only thing a person has left is the right to leave and keep their dignity. The server walked over. "Is everything all right, sir?" "Yes." "Could I have the bill, please, and put this in a box for me?" He paid with cash, gave a tip that was nice but normal, and walked back to his car. His phone buzzed in the holder on the way home. It was a text from his mother-in-law, Helen, with a picture of his son laughing while eating pancakes. He ate 3 of them. "He says hi." Daniel smiled. Ethan was with Helen and Roy for the weekend, as they did one Saturday every month, which was the plan they had kept since Caroline passed away. The house would be silent when he got there. He used to be afraid of the silence. Now he just made space for it. He went to his office instead. He walked in the side door, turned on one lamp, and sat at his desk. From the top drawer, he took out a picture he kept face down under some cards. He looked at it for a moment, then put it away. He sat for a long time. He did not know the woman's name. He did not know her story. He knew one thing for sure. She did not need a stranger buying her lunch just to feel small. She needed a chance that felt safe, open, and kind. And if he was going to be the one to give that chance, he would have to learn to be patient. He drove home in the late afternoon light. For the next 2 weeks, Daniel did something he did not tell anyone about. The park by the river was close to his office. On days his work was not too busy, he brought a book and walked the long way, past the big tree by the playground to a bench near the path. He told himself he was just reading. On his 3rd visit, he saw her. She was sitting on a bench at the end of the path with her body turned outward, the way people sit when they are watching a child more than they are resting. And there, 10 yards in front of her on the swings, was a little girl, maybe 6 years old. Wild blonde hair, small legs moving to go higher. Something felt heavy in Daniel's chest. He had not known. The woman at the restaurant had a little girl. The wallet on the table had been trying to be enough for 2 people. He stayed where he was. He did not stand up. He did not wave. He opened his book to a page he had read 3 times that week and let the woman decide if he was a danger. She noticed him in a few minutes. He saw her back get stiff. One hand moved to the bag at her side, ready to leave. He turned a page he was not reading and kept his eyes on the words. She did not leave. He came back when he could. Some days he just walked through. Other days he sat down. He never went near her. He never talked to her. Slowly, the gap between them began to close. 2 benches apart became one. One became the same long bench, she at one end, he at the other, with the child's bucket of leaves between them. On the 8th or ninth visit, a young man in a hooded shirt stopped in front of Daniel's bench. He moved his feet, looked down, then looked up. "Mr. Carter, I do not know if you remember me. I am Marcus Reyes. From the shelter, 2 winters ago." Daniel closed the book with his finger inside. "Marcus, sure. How are you?" "I started at the community college in September, studying business. They told me at the office it was an anonymous person, but I asked around. I just wanted to say thank you in person." He gave a short, shy laugh. "I have been hoping I would see you. My mom works near the river." Daniel stood up and shook his hand. "Good job. That is all because of you. Showing up. You kept showing up. You did it, sir, when no one else would." Daniel did not answer. Marcus looked at the playground, gave him one more nod, and walked away. When Daniel sat back down, he could feel the woman looking at the side of his face. She had heard. She did not pretend she had not. She was looking at the old cover of his book, the way people look at a jacket that is older than they thought. Whatever she had decided about him at the restaurant was being changed right then. A few minutes later, the little girl came running over. She stopped 2 feet from Daniel and looked at him with the simple truth only kids have. "Mama, Mama, that is the man from the restaurant, right, Emma?" The woman said fast, her voice firm but not mean. "Do not bother people." Daniel closed his book. He smiled at the girl. "Hi, Emma. My name is Daniel." Emma looked at him. "Do you still eat chicken tenders?" He laughed before he could stop. "I do. I did not bring any today, though." Emma grinned. The woman reached out and pulled her daughter close to her side, not hard, but safely. Then she looked at Daniel for the first time without a wall. "I appreciate that you have not pushed," she said. Her voice was quiet, but very clear. "I need to be honest with you. I do not take help from strangers." Daniel nodded. "I understand." "No." She held his gaze. "You do not." Then after a long time she added, "But maybe you might. My name is Sarah Mitchell. This is my daughter, Emma. Could we meet somewhere tomorrow?" Without her, they met at 10 o'clock in the morning. Sarah suggested the park again, the same bench. Emma was at school. The October air was colder now. The leaves on the ground had turned from yellow to brown. Sarah sat at one end. Daniel sat at the other, leaving a space of wood between them. She had brought a drink container. She did not open it. She did not waste time. 2 years ago, Emma's father left. She said she kept her eyes on the river. I had been staying home with her, so I had no recent work. No one to say I was a good worker. I tried everywhere. No one wanted to hire a single mother with a gap in her history. Daniel said nothing. He left room for her to tell it the way she needed to. Then I met a man named Richard Hale. Sarah said he owned a few small businesses. He gave me a job with good pay and flexible hours. I thought I had finally found someone nice. Her voice went flat. At first, it was fine. Then he started asking for more. Stay late, dinner with clients, wear the dress he picked, smile more. Every time I said no, he reminded me that I owed him, that no one else would hire me, that I should be thankful. She stopped. She took a breath. She did not cry when I finally said no. He told me I did not understand how the world worked. He said if I wanted to keep the job, I had to show my thanks the right way. Daniel's hands stayed open on his knees. I quit that same day. Sarah said, but Richard had power. He called the places I applied to after that, told them I could not be trusted, that I stole money, that I used men to get ahead. I lost the apartment. We stayed in a shelter for 4 months. Eventually, I found work doing laundry for cash. The pay is low and there is no safety, but at least I do not owe anybody. She looked at him then. Her eyes were red. Her voice stayed steady. So when you offered to help at the restaurant, when you kept showing up here, I kept waiting for you to name the real price, because I have learned that nothing is free. Sooner or later, there is always a bill. The words sat between them on the bench. Daniel did not rush to tell her he was different. He knew men like Richard said the same thing. Thank you for telling me, he said. She looked surprised, he went on. I am not going to say I am not like him. Words are cheap, so I will tell you something instead. He told her briefly about the years he had slept in his car, about washing dishes 12 hours a day for a man named George Miller, who paid him fairly and never made him beg. About the morning George had put a hand on his shoulder and said, "Just open the door. Let them walk through on their own." He told her George had died 3 years ago, the same year his wife Caroline had died of cancer. He told her he was raising a 7-year-old son named Ethan mostly alone with the help of Caroline's parents on weekends. "I am telling you that," Daniel said, "so you know I am not a man who has never been afraid of anything. I have been afraid of almost everything. I just had people who did not use it against me." Sarah did not answer. She watched a bird lift off the river and fly toward the bridge. Daniel took a business card from his jacket. He put it on the bench between them. He did not hand it to her. "I need an assistant for the office. Scheduling, emails, materials, organizing files. This is not a gift. It is a real job. There will be an interview, a contract, a trial period, a clear salary." She looked at the card. She did not pick it up. "I am not asking you to answer right now," he said. "If you want to interview, call the office. If you do not, that is fine too. I will still come to the park when I can. Emma can still play on the swings." He stood up. "It was good to meet you, Sarah." She did not smile, but the sharpness in her eyes had softened a little. 3 days passed with no call. On the 4th day, the office phone rang. Daniel was on a video call with a client. Megan Brooks, the woman who helped run the firm, picked up the line. She knocked on his door a minute later. "Sarah Mitchell online too? She says she is calling about the job." Daniel held up one finger to the camera. "Take a message." Megan tilted her head. She sounded like she might not call back. He muted the call, put her through. The voice that came on was careful and formal. "Mr. Carter, this is Sarah Mitchell. If the job is still open, I would like to interview. It is still open. Would Monday at 9 o'clock work for you?" "Yes." He hesitated, then added, "Our manager Megan will be on the team with me. Standard interview. Nothing weird. A breath on the other end. Thank you. Monday at 9 o'clock. On Monday, she arrived 15 minutes early. She wore a navy dress that had been ironed with care. She carried a resume printed on slightly old paper, the kind that had been bought a year ago for a stack of tries that never went anywhere. Daniel noticed it without saying anything. He had used the same paper once. Megan led the interview. She asked about Sarah's work style. Sarah answered clearly. She had run a house budget on very little money for 2 years. She had managed shelter paperwork as a volunteer. She knew how to track 100 small things at once. Daniel asked about pressure. Sarah said she was used to handling many things going wrong at the same time. Megan asked about the gap in her work history. Sarah did not hide it. "I was caring for my daughter. After that, I faced some hard times. I would rather talk about what I can do now." Megan nodded and made a note. Daniel asked her to walk through how she would handle plans for 3 clients in 3 time zones. She walked through it. She caught one mistake he had built into the question on purpose. She told him politely that the logic was wrong. At the end, Daniel pushed a paper across the desk. 3 months trial, same as anyone else. Market rate, salary, benefits when you are permanent. He pushed a pen toward her, then pulled it back. "Take it home. Read it carefully. Have someone look at it. You do not have to sign today." Sarah picked up the papers. Her fingers were steady. She read for almost 10 minutes while Daniel and Megan worked on their computers. At one point, Megan got up and brought her a glass of water without making a scene. When Sarah looked up, she said, "It is fair. It should be. You are not worried I will not do the job well." "I expect good work," Daniel said. "If you do not meet the standard, I will tell you. If you do, you will be paid for it. This is a job, not a favor." For the first time since he met her, Sarah smiled. It was small, but it was real. "Then I accept." Megan offered her hand. "Welcome to Carter Strategic Consulting." Sarah shook it. Then she turned and offered her hand to Daniel. He took it. Her grip was stronger than he thought. That night, after Ethan had gone to bed, Daniel sat at the kitchen counter and looked at the new hire folder he had made, forms, tax papers, a copy of the handbook with the rules about being treated nicely marked in yellow. He thought for a moment, then added a paper at the front that simply said, "Direct Supervisor, Daniel Carter." Second contact, Megan Brooks. For any concern about anyone in this office, including the owner, call Megan Brooks. He underlined Megan's phone number twice. Sarah started the next week. Daniel treated her exactly like any other employee. He did not ask about her personal life unless it was needed for work. He did not give her special treatment, did not call her after hours, did not look for reasons to stop by her desk. The first few days, she was very tense. Every time he called her into his office, she walked in like she was ready for bad news. Every time he gave feedback, she said she was sorry right away, even for small things. The third time she did it, he stopped her. "It is fine. Just fix it. You do not owe me an apology for making a mistake." She looked at him like she was not used to mistakes being treated as something that could just be fixed, but she began to relax. In her second week, she suggested a better way to plan meetings so clients in different places would not overlap on Daniel's calendar. In her third week, she caught a line in a contract before he signed it. In her fourth week, she went through their software bills and found 4 they did not need, saving the firm almost $12,000 a year without being asked. He realized he had almost passed on a very capable person because her life looked messy on paper. On a Thursday afternoon in November, Daniel left the office at 3 o'clock. He told Megan he would be on his phone. Sarah was at the printer when the receptionist, Janet, leaned on the counter with a soft look. "He never misses one, you know." Sarah looked up. "I am sorry, Ethan." His son. "School things, reading days, science fairs. Today it is a poetry show. Daniel has not missed one since Caroline passed." Janet picked up a pile of mail. 3 years this December. Sarah did not say anything. She finished collecting her papers, walked back to her desk, and sat for a moment with her hand flat on the warm paper. Then she looked across the office at Daniel's open door. From where she was sitting, she could just see the corner of the picture he kept on his table, a boy on someone's shoulders, a woman laughing at the camera with sun in her hair. When Daniel got back to the office at 6:30, only Sarah was still there. She was finishing a file. He stopped in her doorway. "You can leave that for tomorrow." She looked up. "I know. I would rather finish it while it is fresh. How was the day?" "Fine. Megan ran the meeting with the 2 clients. It went well." He nodded. "Do not overwork yourself." She studied him for a moment. Her face had a quiet look that he had not seen before, the kind that meant she was about to ask something she had been holding for a while. "You really will tell me," she said, "if I am not doing the job well, of course. And you will not use the fact that you gave me this job to make me accept anything I do not want." He did not move back. He understood why she had to ask. "No," he said, "this is work. The contract protects both of us. If anything in this office makes you feel bad, the person to call is Megan, and Megan does not work for me when it comes to that kind of complaint. She works for the board. No one owns anyone here." Sarah looked down at her desk. "It sounds simple when you say it. It should be simple. Not everyone makes it simple." She nodded slowly. "True." He left her at her desk and walked back to his office. From his window, he watched the lights along the river come on one by one. The firm shared a study on a Monday morning in March, a 2-page report on the rural health client they had helped through a hard change. At the bottom, in a small paragraph that had become normal, Daniel had named the team Megan Brooks, 2 senior workers, and Sarah Mitchell, listed by role, who had coordinated client talk throughout the job. Richard Hale walked into the lobby of the office at 4 in the afternoon on Tuesday. He was dressed well. He smiled at the woman at the front desk. He said he had read the report and wondered if Mr. Carter had a few minutes to talk about a new job. Janet asked him to wait. She walked, not fast but not slow, to Megan's office instead of to Daniel's. Megan stood up the moment Janet said the name. "Daniel," she said into his doorway a minute later. "Conference room. Now bring nothing. Sarah is at the other office this afternoon. She is not going to walk in on this." In the conference room, Richard sat down without being asked. He talked for a while about working together, about how happy he was with the firm's growth. Then, almost in the middle of a sentence, he said, "Of course, I noticed you have Sarah Mitchell on your team now. I should mention as a nice gesture. She and I have a long history. There are things about how she works that any good business owner would want to know." Daniel did not answer. Megan opened the folder she had brought in with her. "Mr. Hale," Megan said, "I want to be clear. This is Miss Mitchell's report from her 90-day review. Work quality is up. Client happiness is high. 2 written notes from clients who specially named her work. This is the firm's policy on lying about current workers, signed by our lawyer. This is the letter we are ready to send to your business address within 24 hours if any of our clients receive a single phone call about Miss Mitchell's character. She turned the page, and this, she said, is the reason I have it ready. The next sheet in the folder was a copy of an email from almost 4 years ago from Megan's personal account to a woman named Hannah Doyle. The body of the email read, "Hannah, please save everything. Dates, times, his exact words. If you ever decide to come forward, I will go with you." Megan looked at Richard without a smile. "Hannah was my college roommate. She came to me before she left your company. I have been keeping a file ever since. I did not need Sarah Mitchell's name to know who you are. Sarah's name just told me where you would show up next." Richard's face did something he had clearly not planned on doing. "This is a misunderstanding," he said. "I came in good faith." "Then you will leave in good faith," Daniel said, the first words he had spoken. "And you will not contact this firm or any client of this firm or Miss Mitchell in any way ever again. If you do, the letter goes out by the end of the day. We have your business addresses on file." Richard left within 3 minutes. Janet held the door for him without a smile. That evening, Megan sent Sarah a formal note. It described the event in clean, simple language. It cited the firm's policy. It listed the protections in place. It said the matter was closed and that no action was required from her. Sarah came into Daniel's office the next morning, the note in her hand, and said only, "Thank you for not making me ask." "You should not have to," Daniel said. Sarah had sold her car back in August to pay down the last of her debt from the shelter. She had not told anyone. She rode the bus to work and walked 11 blocks from the stop to the office. In November, the rain came down steady through her trip. In January and February, the wind off the river found every hole in her coat. By March, she was running on too little sleep and a cup of bad coffee. She kept skipping breakfast because Emma needed real lunches in her backpack. She kept staying late because there was a big job depending on a task due Thursday morning. On Wednesday afternoon, she dropped Emma at the home of a friend named Lily Park, whose mother she had come to trust. The sleepover had been planned 2 weeks in advance. Emma packed her own bag and was proud of it. Sarah went home, put on dry socks, made tea she did not drink, and sat at the kitchen table to finish the work. She did not remember the floor coming up to meet her. She remembered the cold of the tile against her cheek, the sound of her own breath, and the long crawl to her purse on the chair. She called 911. Then, while she could still speak, she called Daniel. "Mr. Carter, I am sorry to call so late. They are taking me to the hospital. The work is stopped." His voice was already calm. "Work is not more important." "Which hospital?" "County General. I will be there. You do not have to." "I am coming." "Do not argue. Is Emma safe at the sleepover?" "Lily Park is good." On the drive, the memories he usually kept hidden came back fast. He had sat in an emergency room at 23 with no insurance and his sister's small hand in his. He had stared at a bill with 3 more zeros than he had ever held at once. Or people did not just fear getting sick, they feared what came after. When he arrived, Sarah was in a bed behind a curtain. Pneumonia. The doctor said very low water levels in her body. They were keeping her for at least 48 hours for medicine and care. She would be fine. She had been close to not being fine. Daniel sat on the small plastic chair by her bed. Sarah looked at him with 3 things in her face at once: relief, shame, and the old careful watchfulness. "You actually came. I told you I would. I cannot pay for this. I do not have good insurance. I will pay the hospital bill. No, I cannot let you listen to me." He did not lean closer. He did not take her hand. "I will pay the hospital directly. You will not owe me anything. Not loyalty, not extra hours, not thanks, not anything." Her eyes filled. "You do not understand. I do not know how to accept this without feeling tied down this time. Do not accept it for yourself. Accept it because you have to walk into the office on Monday and be told your job is still yours. Accept it because Mrs. Park is going to ask questions you do not need to answer, and you do not need that fight right now. She closed her eyes. A tear went into her hair. Okay? He stayed. He moved to the chair in the hall when nurses came in. He drank bad coffee. He texted Megan at 1 o'clock in the morning. Handle Thursday. Do not call Sarah. He texted Helen to keep Ethan an extra day. He did not sleep. Around 4 in the morning, Sarah came out into the hall in a hospital gown and a borrowed sweater. She sat beside him without speaking. She did not sit as far away as she used to. "Why did you stay?" she asked. He looked at the closed door of her room. "Because when someone is afraid," he said, "being there matters more than money." She rested her head on the wall and closed her eyes. Sarah came home from the hospital on Friday afternoon. Daniel drove her, carried her bag to the door, and waited until she had her key in the lock. "Take next week," he said. "Megan and I have it. Take the week." She took the week. Lily's mother brought Emma home Saturday morning. Emma had been told that Mama had been tired and the doctor had said she needed to drink more water. She accepted this completely and then climbed into her mother's lap on the couch and fell asleep. On Monday, Sarah called the school office about another mother she had seen at the pickup line for 2 months. A woman who never spoke, whose daughter wore shoes with the toes worn out. By Wednesday, she had a name and a plan that did not involve money she did not have. She came back to work the next Monday and went to Daniel's office. "I want to do something for the woman at Emma's school." "Tell me," she told him. "Start small and clear," Daniel said. "Not I will save your life. Just I have an extra pair of shoes my daughter outgrew. Would yours fit them? If you want to be more direct, tell her you were once in a hard place and you would like to help with one small thing. No strings." Sarah wrote it down on the back of a paper. What if she says no? Then you respect it. Helping someone does not mean forcing them to accept. Sarah looked at him. "It is harder than I thought. Helping while still protecting the other person's pride is hard work." "Yes, I am learning that from you." "You are learning it from your own life," Daniel said. "I am just trying not to hurt it." She did not leave right away. She stood in his door and turned the small silver ring on her hand, the one her grandmother had left her, the only thing she had not sold during the shelter year. "Emma wants to invite you to dinner," she said. "And Ethan, she said she wants to thank you for staying at the hospital. She also wants to show off the new apartment." He looked up. "The new apartment?" Sarah smiled. This time it reached her eyes. "I signed a lease. 2 bedrooms. It is not big, but it is clean and safe and 10 minutes from the school. For the first time in 2 years, I have keys to a place no one can suddenly take away from me. I am really happy for you." That Saturday evening, Daniel and Ethan went over. Daniel brought a small plant and some garlic bread because Sarah had said she was making noodles. Ethan brought a box of his best paper for making shapes because Sarah had told Daniel that Emma had asked. Emma opened the door and stared at Ethan for 1 second. "You are tall," she said. "You are loud," Ethan said. This was a good start. They went to the living room rug and did not come back until dinner. Sarah and Daniel ate noodles at a small table by the window. After, they did the dishes together while the children played in the next room. Sarah rinsed a plate. "Have you ever been afraid you are getting too close?" Daniel did not pretend not to understand. "Yes." "Why?" "Because I am your boss. Because I have more money than you. Because you were hurt by a man who used his position. I am afraid that if I say how I feel too soon, it will make you feel pressured." She turned the water off. The sound stopped, and the kitchen felt very quiet. "How do you feel?" He set down the plate he was drying. "I care about you more than a friend. I will not do anything with those feelings unless you are ready. Your job has nothing to do with this. Emma's safety has nothing to do with this. The hospital bill has nothing to do with this. You do not owe me a nice answer." She was quiet for a long time. Then she reached over and rested her hand on top of his on the counter. She left it there for a few seconds. She did not say anything. She did not need to. They went slow. They had agreed to go slow and they kept their word to each other in a way neither of them had been kept to before. At the office, Megan took over as Sarah's boss. Sarah's role grew. Her pay went up at the next review. Daniel looked at her work only through Megan and only on documents Megan had signed first. He wanted Sarah to know that if anything between them ever ended, the job she had built would still be hers. Outside of work, things moved at the pace of small dinners and long walks. They had coffee on Sunday mornings while the children watched cartoons. They took Ethan and Emma to the Children's Museum and to the river and to a farm on a Saturday when the rain held off. They helped together one weekend a month at the center where Daniel had been quietly giving money for almost 10 years. In May, 6 months after Sarah had walked into the office for her interview, she came into Daniel's office at the end of a Friday and put an envelope on his desk. "What is this?" "Open it." Inside was a check for $500 made to the community center. He stared at it longer than he meant to. "Sarah, it is not to pay me back for the hospital." She said, "You made it clear that was not a debt. It is to pass forward. I want Emma to grow up understanding that when you have a little extra, you share it, not because somebody owes you, but because there were times when you needed somebody to share with you." To Daniel, $500 was not a lot of money anymore. To Sarah, it represented weeks of careful saving, money that could have gone toward new clothes for Emma, better food, more safety. He did not stand up. He did not move toward her. He just looked at her across the desk. "Are you sure?" "I am sure." He nodded. "Thank you." She left his office and went back to her desk and did not make a scene. That summer, Emma asked the question. It was a Sunday afternoon at the river. Daniel was holding a bag of bread for the ducks. Ethan was kneeling at the water. Sarah was sitting on the bench with her shoes off. Emma walked over and pulled on Daniel's shirt. "Are you Mama's boyfriend?" Sarah on the bench choked on her water. Daniel crouched down so he was eye to eye with the girl. "I am a very close friend of your mom's and I respect her very much. If one day your mom wants to call me something different, that will be her decision." Emma thought about this. "So you will still come for dinner if your mom invites me?" "Okay." Then she ran back to the ducks. Ethan, 10 yards down, looked up and waved her over, and they looked at a snail they had found. Daniel sat down next to Sarah on the bench. He did not touch her. They watched the children. "That was a kind answer," Sarah said. "It was an honest one. I know those are not always the same." She slid her hand across the wood of the bench and laid it over his. In the fall on a Saturday she had not planned for, Daniel asked her if she would be willing to think about marrying him. He asked her at her own kitchen table while Emma was at a party and Ethan was at his grandparents'. He asked her without a ring. He told her that if she said yes, the ring should be something they chose together, and if she said no or not yet or never, he would still bring dinner next Saturday. Sarah looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, "Yes, not soon, but yes." "Okay," Daniel said. "We will go in the order you want." 1 year after the afternoon at the restaurant, the center hosted a community meal. No ads, no reporters, long tables, hot soup, bread, salad, a few sweets. Sarah worked the line, her hair back, gloves on, smiling at every person who came through. Emma was in charge of napkins and took the job very seriously, as if it were the most important task in the world. Ethan stood at the breadbasket and pretended to be the boss. Daniel watched Sarah from the kitchen door. She was no longer the woman who had quietly walked out of a restaurant because she could not afford to stay. She was no longer the woman who looked at every act of kindness like a trap. She was still careful. She still remembered. She had simply stopped letting Richard Hale write the rest of her life. At the end of the evening, when most people had gone, Sarah walked over to where Daniel was standing. "What are you thinking about?" "I am thinking George was right." "About what?" "That the best way to pay back kindness is to live well enough that it does not stop with you." Sarah looked at the long tables being cleared. "I used to think that needing help meant I was weak. I used to think that too. And now," he looked at her, "now I think people were not made to survive alone." She took his hand. "I am glad you saw us that day." He squeezed her fingers. I am glad you came back to the park. 4 months later, they were married in a small ceremony at the center. There were maybe 30 people in chairs. Megan stood with Daniel. Helen and Roy sat in the front row holding Ethan's hand. Mrs. Park sat behind them with Emma. In his vows, Daniel said, I do not promise to fix every problem you have. I promise I will not use love to take away your ability to stand on your own. I promise to open doors when I can and to respect it when you want to open them yourself. Sarah cried. She said, I do not promise I will never be afraid again. I promise I will not let the fear from my past make decisions for my heart forever. Emma stood beside them holding flowers, crying, even though she probably did not understand everything. After the ceremony at the head table, they left one chair empty. On the chair was a framed picture, an older man in a chef's coat, his hand on the shoulder of a thin young man. Without him, Daniel might not have known the look on Sarah's face that afternoon at the restaurant. He might have thought helping only meant giving money. He might not have had the patience to prove that real kindness does not come with strings. The story closes on a spring evening. Daniel is standing in the kitchen of the small house they have rented together, washing dishes after dinner. Sarah is wiping down the table. Emma is at the table doing homework. Ethan is reading on the couch with one foot in Emma's lap because she has decided this is allowed. Outside the window, flowers in the backyard move in the wind. Sarah walks over and leans against the counter by him. Do you know? She says there was a new woman at the center today. She did not want to take a meal ticket. She kept saying she did not need it. What did you do? Sarah smiles. I put the ticket on the table and told her she could take it if she wanted, and it was also fine if she did not. Then I walked away. Did she take it? She did. After about 10 minutes, Daniel smiles. You opened the door. Sarah rests her head against his shoulder, so she could walk through on her own. He did not save her. He only saw her when she was quietly trying to leave. She was the one who chose to come back. She chose to interview. She chose to work. She chose to trust little by little. And she chose to turn her pain into light for other people. That is the most beautiful part. Not a rich man saving a poor woman. Two people who were once shown an open door, now keeping that same door open for whoever comes.